February 20th, 1945. At Mount Suribachi Airfield No. 1, in the heart of Iwo Jima Island, a Japanese 120mm shell explodes less than 50 meters from a group of dirty, exhausted, but determined men. They don't wear combat uniforms. They wear work overalls, helmets, and often have M1 rifles leaning beside their machines. They are the Seabees, the construction battalions of the United States Navy. A sergeant shouts over the roar, "Keep working, don't stop for anything. That B-29 won't save itself." A D-8 bulldozer moves over the newly formed crater, while an excavator pours volcanic gravel to level the runway. This isn't an ordinary construction scene. It's engineering under fire, a race against time fought at the edges of hell. While about 55,000 Marines and support personnel fought the bloodiest battle in Corps history, another silent war was happening in parallel, 2,000 kilometers north, over Japan. B-29 crews struggled to keep their planes airborne after being torn apart by anti-aircraft artillery and enemy fighters. Without an emergency base between Tokyo and the Marianas, every mission was a deadly lottery. The strategic justification for invading Iwo Jima depended entirely on one premise: that its runways would be operational before the bombing campaign reached its peak. In February 1945, the Roman 21 Bomber Command was losing, on average, between 15 and 20 B-29s per mission. Every day of delay in activating Iwo Jima meant dozens of planes lost and hundreds of men dead at sea or in prison camps. The plan was audacious, almost insane. Have at least one emergency runway operational within 24 hours of landing, limited capacity for fighters in 3 days, and a fully functional base in 1 week. This meant the Seabees would have to work literally on the front lines, under direct fire from artillery, mortars, and snipers hidden in caves. The mission fell to the 8th Seabee Brigade, under the command of the experienced Rear Admiral William L. Spike Nelson. His men, carpenters, bulldozer operators, recruited civil engineers, knew they weren't just building a runway. They were building a lifeline for thousands of comrades they didn't even know. The Seabees landing on February 19th was as chaotic as the Marines. The 133rd Seabee Battalion lost 3 of its D-8 bulldozers to artillery fire before even reaching the beach. The fine volcanic sand, which the men would call black quicksand, swallowed vehicles and made every movement a struggle. But the real challenge began the next day. As the 31st Seabee Battalion advanced towards Mount Suribachi Airfield No. 1, Japanese snipers fired from caves less than 200 meters away. A young recruit, trembling, asked a veteran, "They're 200 meters away. How can we work like this?" The veteran replied, without taking his eyes off the excavator, "Did you think this would be like building a base in Pearl, kid? Here, concrete is mixed with blood. The proximity of the enemy is constant." The 31st Battalion often had to abandon their machines to take up arms when Japanese infiltrations threatened their positions. On more than one occasion, excavators were used to unearth enemy tunnel entrances or create defensive barriers. Integration with the Marines was total. Combat platoons were assigned exclusively to protect the construction teams. As Commander John C. Brown of the 31st Battalion said in a post-war interview, "Our men worked with M1 rifles leaning on their excavators. The front line was wherever our last machine was working." Faced with chaos, the Seabees improvised with genius. They developed a revolutionary system to install the perforated steel planking known as Marston mat, interlocking plates that allowed them to create operational surfaces in hours, not days. Commander Harold B. Harry Grow of the 133rd Battalion reported on February 22nd, "We developed a system for laying Marston mat under fire that allowed us to have an operational runway in 6 hours, instead of the planned 12. Working in 18-hour shifts, sleeping in holes dug beside their machines, the Seabees transformed craters into runways with a speed that impressed even the most skeptical officers. In one of the most poetic ironies of the battle, while the Marines raised the flag on Mount Suribachi on February 23rd, the Seabees of the 31st Battalion completed the first, partially operational runway at Mount Suribachi No. 1. The symbol of conquest and the tool of victory were inaugurated almost simultaneously. But the work was far from over. What followed was one of the greatest feats of military engineering in history. While the battle still raged less than a kilometer away, the Seabees expanded the main runway from 1,650 to 2,000 meters in just 72 hours. They installed over 8,000 Marston mat plates under constant fire. They built an operational control tower in 48 hours, using sandbags and wood recovered from ammunition boxes. They created emergency lighting systems powered by gasoline generators, aircraft shelters, and even field hospitals integrated into the parking areas. The definitive proof came on March 4, 1945. Around 4:00 p.m., the B-29 Dynamite from the 9th Bomb Group approached Iwo Jima with one engine destroyed, damaged landing gear, and several wounded aboard. The aircraft, which had participated in a bombing raid over Tokyo, was minutes from ditching in the ocean. The Seabees watched in tense silence as the metal giant touched the still uneven runway, sliding precariously until it stopped. 11 lives were saved in that moment, for the men who had worked under fire for 2 weeks. It was a validation more powerful than any medal. It was proof that their sacrifice had a purpose. In the following days, the numbers began to speak for themselves. On March 11th, the first P-51 Mustangs of the 15th Fighter Group began operating from Iwo Jima, escorting B-29s to Tokyo and back. The presence of these fighters, which previously lacked sufficient range, completely changed the dynamics of the air campaign. B-29 losses, which reached 5% per mission in February, dropped to less than 1% by July. Between March and August 1945, 2,251 B-29s landed on Iwo Jima, many in emergencies, others for refueling. It is estimated that over 5,000 airmen had their lives saved thanks to the base. One of them, Colonel Robert Morgan, pilot of the famous B-29 Dauntless Dottie, would say decades later, "When I saw that Iwo Jima runway appear through the smoke, there are no words. We owe our lives to those men who worked under fire." The legacy of the Seabees on Iwo Jima goes beyond statistics. They prove that logistics is a strategic weapon, that a shovel can be as vital as a rifle, that engineering, under the most extreme conditions, can be an act of heroism. Their motto, "We build, we fight," was never better exemplified. While the Marines received glory for close combat, the Seabees operated in the shadows, building the infrastructure of victory. Many were decorated with the Navy Cross and Silver Star for their bravery. Sergeant James R. Waters of the 31st Battalion received the Navy Cross for operating his excavator for 36 continuous hours under intense fire, opening an evacuation route that saved dozens of wounded. His citation read, "Under intense enemy fire, Sergeant Waters refused to retreat, keeping his machine in operation, even after being wounded twice." The true lesson of Iwo Jima is that modern victory requires multiple forms of courage. That of the combatant advancing under machine gun fire, that of the strategist planning the campaign, and that of the builder erecting a runway in the midst of chaos. Together, Marines and Seabees transformed a volcanic island, once considered useless, into an air fortress. that saved thousands of lives and accelerated the end of the war in the Pacific. The runways of Iwo Jima are still there, visible even today in satellite images, silent witnesses to a feat that mixed sweat, blood, and ingenuity in epic proportions. While the world remembered Suribachi, another fierce battle unfolded to the north for control of Mount Suribachi Airfield No. 3, the most critical airfield for the full operation of the base. It was there that Japanese resistance concentrated in the final days, knowing that without that field, Iwo Jima would lose its strategic value. That is a story still little told, the conquest of the airfield that sealed the island's fate. But that's a topic for another episode.